When England beat us, it hurt and it hurt hard. Now, a year and a quarter later, can we pay back in the same currency? Joining us on this center stage special build-up to the big Grudge series, I've got Geoffrey, Boycott, Sourav, Ganguly joining us from Ahmedabad. Thank you very much. Gaurav Gala is with me and also Nikhil Chopra. I want to go across first to Dada. Dada, you know, England really battered us, black and blue, in England. Now all of India seeks revenge. Do you think we will be able to pay back in the same currency, come back with the same sort of scorecard that England sent us back with?
Well, Rahul, it will be difficult to predict whether we come back with the same scorecard of 4-0, but all I can say is India will be favourites, and because they're playing back at home on turning pitches, so they will have the better of England. But whether they can beat 4-0, we'll have to wait and see, because don't forget England have also got two quality spinners.
Geoffrey, Boycott, you know, it's a pleasure to have you with us and we all love your commentary, but we are hoping that your team goes back with a 4-0 scorecard. How do you assess the possibility of things panning out that way, or do you really think that this English team can actually take on the Indians in their own home grounds?
Well, I think both sides have quite a bit to prove. England in particular, they played pretty poorly against Pakistan in the UAE, against the spin and all the spinners. Even Hafiz, the opening batsman, bowling off spin, they weren't very confident against, and Ajmal, many of them couldn't pick him at all, and they lost pretty badly. It dented their confidence. So us who support England, have played for England, we know that there are demons still there in their heads. And it's no good saying that they've practiced a lot, they've played well in the warm-up matches. The fact is, you have to play well in the matches. So it's a big test for those batsmen. I don't think that they'll beat India. You never know, you know, sport throws up funny results, but I think what's important that they have to show some pride, and they have to play a hell of a lot better than they did against Pakistan. For India, it's not all plain sailing for India. You've got people like Sehwag, who's been brilliant in Asia on the lower bounce pitches, but his form hasn't been great lately. He hasn't been getting many runs, he's getting older. Tendulkar, who's been a champion, a fantastic player, he's getting older. You know, he's got to put some runs together. Yuvraj Singh, he's had cancer. Bless him, I'm glad he's well again, but he hasn't played Test cricket for a while. All wonderful players, but the past doesn't count.
We're coming
it's about
to that.
now.
We've got a full section where we'll be debating our seniors and looking at
it's not plain sailing,
how their performance will shape up. But Dada, there's been a lot of talk building up to this series about the sort of pitches India should prepare. When we went to England, they were ranked green pitches, the ball was seaming, it was bouncing, it was very difficult for the Indian batsmen to cope. Should we now pay back and have these really brown, dusty tracks where the ball is spinning, jumping, even the bowler doesn't know where it's going? Is that the sort of track we should prepare? Because that's the easiest way to take the English down.
Yeah, but you got to be careful, Rahul. You don't want to prepare absolute dust bowls where you said the ball's going everywhere, because you got to be careful that England have got two quality spinners. Graham Swan and Monty Panesar will be handy in these conditions. What India need to prepare are good wickets, which will start good and keep turning as the test match progresses, because the English batting is weaker than the Indian batting on turning pitches. So if you don't want to give the English spinners an upper hand by preparing absolutely poor pitches, which is going to be a dust bowl and turn square. So you prepare good pitches and then hope for the best. Remember the tour of Australia in 2001, where India scored heaps of runs and then spun Australia out. The wickets were good. They started well, they were good batting tracks which allowed India to get runs, and then as the test match progressed, Harbhajan Singh came into play. So India need to be very careful with the pitches. When I came in this afternoon, I spoke to Roshan Mahanama. He's the match referee, and he said that the wicket has not been watered for 3 days, and it's pretty hot in Ahmedabad. So by the time day 4 comes, it's going to be seventh day of the pitch without water. So you expect turn and bounce, and Geoffrey is shivering already. It's warm here, but he's still shivering, so you expect turn, but you need to prepare good pitches.
But why not, Geoffrey? Given the sort of pitches England prepared, India should go in with turning tracks. There's no reason to have a sporting wicket. Given the sort of pitches we faced in England, we should give back in the same currency. That's what I'm sure a lot of our viewers would be thinking.
Can you give me the question? I can't hear that with it.
Now, can you repeat for Geoffrey once more?
Can you tell me what he said?
He's saying that in England they prepared green seamers, so why not prepare rank turners? What's wrong in that?
Well, I didn't see any green seamers in England. I've grown up there. I've played there for 25 years. I've been doing commentary now for about 25 years. And I didn't see any green seamers. It normally swings in the air. That's atmospheric conditions. And then it carries on seaming a bit off the pitch. But that's not unusual in England. They're pretty decent pitches. If you saw a green top, it would be the colour of this grass in the daylight. It's just that your players are not used to the ball moving at all in the air. They move a little in the air, but off the pitch doesn't do very much in India. So you're not used to it. Our boys are not used to turning like that. They're used to the ball turning like that. When it turns like that 4th and 5th day, that's when our guys are not used to it. So I don't think you should get sucked into playing raging turners from the first ball. Because if you do, luck comes into it a great deal. England may be lucky. You may get all the unlucky balls that grub and keep low or jump out, out of the foothold and off a bad piece of the pitch. And you never know. If you're a good team in your own country, you should make your normal pitches, stay good, turn progressively, slowly as the pitch wears, the match goes on, and normally you've done well, and you've beaten most people, most series you've won. If you get sucked into looking for retaliation, vengeance, you lost 4-0, oh, it was terrible pitches in England. They were not terrible pitches. You played terrible.
Okay. Geoffrey, we're not talking about raging turners from day one, but what we are talking about is using the home conditions to the advantage of the home side, which of course in this case is India. We know that the pitch is turned, so what about using the conditions in our favor, having the captain and the Indian think tank, the team management, speaking to the curators, so to ensure that the home conditions are in favor of the home side?
Yeah, I agree. It should be favouring the home side, and that's what's going to happen, Gaurav. You'll be absolutely sure once the game starts tomorrow morning at the Motera Stadium. You will see a good surface for the first 2 days, and then as the Test match progresses, turn, and that's the right way to go. I'm firmly against rank turners from day one because it could backfire. Yeah. So we will expect good batting surfaces for the first 2-3 days. Toss will be crucial, and then as the Test match progresses, turn. And that's exactly what's going to happen here and probably for the rest of the series.
All right, the great thing about the series, if I may say, we've got 4 Test matches. 4 or 5 is the only way to find out who is the best side. Because when you've only got 1 or 2, and you're just lucky in the first one, then, you can't come back. But over 4 or 5 Test matches, we should be able to see, with a bit of luck either side, it all evens out and the best side should win in the end. Okay. And that's why most of us, I think, as ex-players who played, prefer 4 or 5 Test matches. I prefer 5, but that seems to have gone mostly nowadays. But 4's as good as it gets, and we'll find out the best side in the end will win.
We've set up this discussion. I now want to shift to some of the contentious points we wish to take up on the show this evening. Should India act against some of the seniors who are not being able to perform? And let's start with the openers. You've got Gautam Gambhir and Virendra Sehwag both performing at way below their peak levels, and I want to put that question first to Sourav Ganguly, because on the one side they've got big reputations as batsmen who can score tons on subcontinental tracks. There's also their past record. There are 2 openers waiting in the wings. Should we play Gambhir and Sehwag throughout this series, or should they be on notice during this Grudge series?
No, I think they should start with Gambhir and Sehwag. They are successful pairs. It's true that they haven't got hundreds for over a period of time. Gambhir hasn't got 100 for 3 years. Sehwag almost 2 years, and they've struggled overseas and they've struggled in India as well. But if you go back to the last series against New Zealand, Sehwag looked in good touch. He got two good 40s in those 2 Test matches, but didn't go on to make a big score. Gambhir has definitely been out of form. But if I was Mahendra Singh Dhoni, I would start with these 2. I know you've got Murali Vijay, you've got Ajinkya Rahane who could open, but I believe the selectors have selected him also as a middle order batsman. You go back to Murali Vijay, he hasn't got runs in his Test career as well. So he was left out and he was brought back because of his domestic performances. So if I was Mahendra Singh Dhoni, and that's what's going to happen, Rahul, you're going to start with Sehwag and Gambhir, give them the first 2 Test matches. If they get runs, obviously they carry on. If they don't get runs, and if India don't win, then probably the changes will happen. But even if they don't get runs and India win, I think they will play for
Geoffrey,
the 4
you're looking...
Can I just say,
yes.
the hardest thing for the modern player, and particularly Indian players, explain why, is to transfer your game from playing such a lot of T20, you know, the 2020 and then the 50 over cricket into 5-day test match cricket. I see a lot more of the current crop of players around the world playing lots of exciting shots, scoring quicker than we did, but making errors. And it's because they play such a lot of one-day cricket now. Indian players play more than anybody. Because of the IPL, which has been so popular, so successful, and earning everybody lots of money, television stations, BCCI players, there's a tendency to go after balls. And I think it's important that they get a different mindset. Just slow it down a little bit, and it's over 5 days. It's a test of ability, it's a test of character, it's a test of mental toughness, you know, patience, concentration, all these old words we used to talk about. It's not about how many sixes you hit. This is not the IPL, right? It's not how many boundaries. It's actually how many runs. And it's can Sehwag, you know, can Gambia, can Tendulkar stay in and manufacture innings in the old-fashioned way.
Geoffrey, you're looking
They've
at
still
this
got the
debate
talent,
dispassionately
but
from
it's
the outside.
mental application after having played so much one-day cricket to change to this 4 test matches over 5 days. It's a different game.
Geoffrey Boycott, you know, you're looking at this debate from the outside, and many in India would argue that Virendra Sehwag and Gautam Gambhir are both going to take the playing 11 only on the basis of their past reputation. If you look at their recent averages, Gambhir and Sehwag have aggregated about 22.29 together. You know, Gambhir's average is about 37, Sehwag's average is about 31. Some would argue that Rahane and Murli Vijay would actually make for a better selection right at the top. Would you not agree?
It's for you.
What did he say?
I think
I cannot hear him very
in terms of Gautam Gambhir and Virendra Sehwag, I think rightly they should start the series.
Yes.
I know what you're talking about. I know you're talking about past performances. I know they haven't performed off late. But if I was captain, as I said before, I would start with both of them. Sehwag has to spend a little bit of more time in the middle and be a little bit more patient. He is a stroke maker. You don't expect Sehwag to change overnight, but he needs to look to bat for 4 hours. If he bats for 4 hours, he will get a test 100. But at the present moment, I don't see Murli Vijay and Ajinkya Rahane walking into the team. Mind you, Rahul, Murli Vijay doesn't have a great test record. He's young and that can change. He will become a better player with experience and as he plays more cricket. But I will at this stage go in with Virendra Sehwag and Gautam Gambhir and back them. Yes, and I completely agree they haven't got runs. But for me, at the present moment, these two are my openers.
No, but
Let Boycott.
But Geoffrey, how long do you persist? But how long do you persist with the likes of Sehwag and Gambhir? The very fact that they haven't performed for such a long time, you know, 40 innings, 30 innings. Dada, if you could just tell Geoffrey that question, how long do we actually persist with them? Because, you know, we've spoken about this in the past as well.
You're asking how long we should persist with Geoffrey, with Sehwag and Gambhir because they haven't scored runs for a long time.
Look, if you get a new boy, comes into a test match side, you give him a couple of test matches, if he fails, then you usually leave him out. But when you've got players who have done it over a period of time, have scored test match hundreds, have won matches, have been there, done it, they're entitled to a longer chance because you know they can do it, they have done it, they have helped you out time and again. So they get a longer period of chance. Then comes a moment, hey, sorry, you're not doing it, you move on. That is the nature of sport. We don't have a 9-to-5 job where we turn up and get paid. We have to produce runs or wickets. And after a little time, if we don't, you have to say, hey, sorry, the next generation gets its chance. But you can't just go throwing out the older, mature, experienced guys just because they have 1 or 2 failures. But I do feel that if he doesn't do it, Sehwag, this next 2 test matches, I have a feeling that they will move on. Time will march on. Because he will know deep down You live and die by runs, by results. We all do. We've all been dropped. Even the great Bradman was dropped after his first test match. He wasn't dropped after that, I know. But many of us have had a period where we're out of form. And sooner or later, if you don't produce the goods, you have to make way for the youngsters.
Nikhil
but
Chopra,
not straight away.
Virendra Sehwag has made it abundantly clear that he's happy to move down the order. Now that you don't have a Ganguly there, Lakshman, Dravid, you need a big batsman in the middle order. There is space there. Sehwag's reflexes are slowing down. He wants to go down the order. Would it not make sense for the selectors to move him down, maybe bring Rahane in as the opener?
I don't think so. Like Sourav said, not in the first 2 test matches. You know, Virendra Sehwag made his name in test match cricket right at the start, right at the top. Are we trying to compromise for the sake of one player, or are we looking in the interest of the team? At this moment in time, we would want Virendra Sehwag to go out there, bat right at the top, give us starts like he's done in the past, that Geoffrey keeps talking about, and that middle order spot, you've got Yuvraj Singh that has come back in also at that moment in time. So I feel if these guys do well in the middle order, the youngsters, you've got Cheteshwar Pujara, Virat Kohli, and then you've got, of course, Mahendra Singh Dhoni batting there, the captain, and of course Yuvraj Singh. So that gap even in that middle order, Rahul, is getting smaller and smaller by the day.
No, but Dada, he wants to go to the middle order. He's made that abundantly clear to the selectors. Why not move him there and bring in a more stable batsman at the top?
No, I don't agree with you, Rahul, that Virendra Sehwag needs to go down into the middle order. He's played all his test matches, mostly all of his test matches at the top of the order, and the reason why Virendra Sehwag is Virendra Sehwag today is because he's opened. And I said that to him when I was his captain and we have played together. He jokingly, he will casually say, I want to go back to the middle order. I know he said it in press conferences, even after getting hundreds as an opener, that I want to bat in the middle. But it doesn't work that way. India has got a very solid middle order. You've got Pujara, who's got 100 in the last series. You've got Tendulkar. You've got the man in form, Virat Kohli, and then Yuvraj Singh walks in at 6. It is not possible for anyone to bring Virendra Sehwag in the middle. If he has to play for India, he has to play as an opener. I know he's not been among big runs, but he's not been out of form. And I say that after having a look at the way he batted against New Zealand. He got 47 in the first test and 48 in the second, but he was not out of form. He didn't look like someone who was out of touch. So he's got to do what Geoffrey said just now, that bat for long hours, get a bit more defensive. You know, if you go back to Virendra Sehwag of the past, he was such a prolific player. He still averages almost 50 in test cricket, and that doesn't happen easily over a period of 100 test matches. You've got to be very, very good to average 50 in test cricket, and he's done that. And if you look at him then, and he needs to go back and look at himself, that he defended a lot more deliveries. His strike rate then was 62 in test cricket, and now it's almost 79, 80. It looks good, but it doesn't succeed more often. So he needs to go back to the drawing board, have a look at his game, be a bit more defensive, and I still feel he's got the ability in him to get runs in test cricket.
Yeah, I agree with that, and the word I would use rather than defensive is be a little more selective. It's just, the great players select the right ball to play a shot at. And you've always got to bear in mind when you're teaching youngsters, yes, you want them to play some shot, that's how you score. But you've always got to be appreciative of that bowlers bowl good balls. At this level in test cricket, they bowl good balls. They're not idiots, you know, bowling against you. And when they bowl a good ball, there's no shame or embarrassment in blocking it and waiting for the one that you can hit. And it's about selecting the right length, the right line of ball, and the right shot to play. And that's all he has to do. He doesn't have to go into his shell. Just be a little bit more careful rather than a little more careless.
Let me come to the third part of the centre stage face-off tonight. This is about Sachin Tendulkar and whether the England series should be his last. He's spoken to the media. He's admitted, Dada, that he doesn't have much gas in the tank any longer. He says he'll be reviewing what to do. Should the England series be his last, or should he hang on till at least Australia?
No, I don't think so, and I don't think anybody has got the right to speak about Sachin Tendulkar that way. Yes, he's not the Sachin Tendulkar of the old. Let's be absolutely sure. He's 39 years of age and he cannot be of the Sachin Tendulkar of the old. But what he said is, I'm going to review series by series. You know, when you have greats like Tendulkar, Dravid, and Geoffrey himself, you don't need to tell them when you have to go. They know when they need to go, and Sachin Tendulkar will know. My only advice to Sachin would be that go on a high. Don't go when you're not scoring runs, but go when you've got a test 100 or a double 100. And keep your fingers crossed, Rahul. He will get a lot of runs in this series. He just needs to get forward. When he's out of form, he hangs in his crease. But when he's playing well, whether it's in England or South Africa or Australia or in subcontinent conditions, he's right there on the front foot. And if he can get that back in his game, he will be among runs. For all of us, for you, me, for people in India, we don't want Tendulkar to go on low. Tendulkar should go on a high, and nobody knows better than he does.
I will say this about Sachin. First of all, I played Test cricket till I was 41 and a half. I played county cricket for Yorkshire till I was nearly 46.
Days have changed, Geoffrey. You can't go on till 41 anymore.
I think he can. I think it's important, though, that he plays as much zonal cricket as he can in between Test series. Because as you get older, your reactions aren't quite as quick. What you learn, though, on the plus side, you've got experience, you've got knowledge, you've got a technique which has worked for 50 centuries. All these are pluses. And certain shots that you played when you were young and at your zenith, at your height, you can't quite play them because your feet don't move quite as quick, your reactions aren't quite as quick. So you have to be smart. And I think it's a fallacy to think as you get older that you can rest and then just turn up for a test match. I think you have to play more cricket. And I should know because I played into the 40s. You have to play as much cricket as you can to keep your feet, your body moving. And as long as he does that, I think he made did he make 100 in a zonal match? That should stand him in good stead. I think he needs to play a few more of those in between test series. The IPL may give you lots of money. Well, he's got plenty of money, but the IPL's not
more than you.
Well, he's got miles more. But it's not about moving your feet in the IPL. It's how many 4s and 6s you can hit. He needs proper cricket to move his feet. And once the feet are going, because batting at the top level for great players is about like dancing with the feet. It's about balance, forward and back, and transferring your weight. And as you mentioned, if he doesn't get right forward, that's about footwork. And if you move your feet properly, the rest takes care of itself. But as you get older, you need a bit more cricket in between tests to keep you in good form.
Dada, if you could just put a question across to Geoffrey, talking about feet movement, talking about, not being in the right balance and your body position when facing. Obviously we can't tell anything to Sachin Tendulkar regarding those aspects, but when the test series against New Zealand was being played out, the way and the mode of Sachin's dismissals, the very fact that he was getting clean bowled in each of his innings, all the New Zealand seamers got him between the bat and pad. Rahul Dravid in his last series got bowled 8 times out of 9 as well. Do you think that's a sign now for Sachin to possibly call it quits, simply the way he's getting out?
Sachin's got out a number of times against New Zealand bowled, hitting through the onside, through the gap. Is it a sign for him to retire?
No, I've actually seen some of those dismissals on television. And what you said, he doesn't get far enough forward. When his left foot goes that far forward, it means he's a long way, his bat's that far in front of his pad. The idea of batting is to get a good stride in. Big stride as much as you can. Then the bat goes just in front of the pad and it closes the gap. But if the foot goes there and the bat is there, you can see the gap. Look, it's that big. And the ball just comes back and goes in between. It's simple, really. Footwork, I keep telling you.
But is that a
the
sign,
biggest
though?
essential of all the great players I've seen. Gavaskar at his best, Gary Sobers, Vivian Richards, the foot moves. It goes forward a long way, goes back deep into the crease. They have the transfer
maybe you
weight.
could answer that question.
When
Does
you're
the
not
mode of
playing
dismissal
well, all of
reflect
it, me
slowing
included,
reflexes?
the foot goes a little way and then you're stretching for the ball. You've got to get that foot out there and then you've got to get back in the crease. And when you're playing well, you do it so easily, fluently. You don't even think about it. It happens just perfectly.
Dada.
I agree with Geoffrey, Rahul, what you've asked me. I completely agree with him. The reason he was playing across the line against New Zealand was because he wasn't getting on the front foot. And that's why when you asked me previously about Sachin Tendulkar, I've said he's at his best when he gets right on the front foot and his weight is forward. That allows him to rock back and use the crease and play the short ball better. So if he can get forward in this series, England will bowl straight at him. He will be alright. But the reason he was in trouble was because he wasn't getting on the front foot and playing it through the onside.
But forward that much won't work. Forward that much is twice as big a stride. You're nearer to the pitch of the ball. And when your bat comes down, the ball doesn't have much distance to travel before your pad and your bat meet it. When it has further to travel, you leave a gap and you've got problems of LBW.
Hopefully Sachin Tendulkar will be listening to Geoffrey, Boycott and Sourav Ganguly, but what Dada says is important. Whenever Sachin Tendulkar goes, he should go on a big high. That's what the people of India want. Sourav Ganguly and Geoffrey Boycott, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a fabulous discussion, and we hope for an absolutely fabulous series as well. Thank you very much.